So you want a sports sedan, but it must be German. Well, this vehicle is half German. The clutch is German, the prop shaft is German, the rear end is German, the suspension is German, and then you get the American know-how. Over 70 years of building, engineering, perfecting the small block Chevrolet. You get that underneath the hood, you have a heck of a package. This is a great sports sedan to buy. So what's the story here? I just sold this vehicle and it's really breaking me up. I'm going to really miss this car, and I'll go over why I really decided to sell the vehicle. But let's start with the competitors, and then we'll talk about this vehicle, how it is a terrific buy. You may be thinking AMG Mercedes. You can find older AMG vehicles really, really cheaply. This vehicle is now 20 years old. 20 years old. And to find an older Mercedes, not too expensive. It's the parts. The parts are really expensive. And do you have the know-how? Can you do the work at home? If you can, it may be worth it for you. In my case, I want a manual transmission. The AMG, every AMG model I've ever seen, always an automatic. I like the simplicity of a stick shift. It's less to go wrong, which is something we'll talk about this engine. There's just less to go wrong. So AMG for me is out. Then you have BMW, the M5. They're awesome cars. The older ones are terrific vehicles, but man, they are expensive. They are not cheap to buy. And again, you're dealing with German parts that are really expensive as well, and you have to have the know-how. The parts in this vehicle, and I'll get to it, are not that bad. And then you have the Audi S4. I've owned an S4, 2011. I loved the vehicle. The fit and finish was excellent. The problem with those vehicles, at least the one I had, which was the B8, that's the supercharged V6 version. They, for whatever the reason, they engineered that engine to have the timing chains at the rear of the engine, where the firewall, where the engine meets the firewall, that's where they have the timing chains. And over time, they develop leaks. Now, they did have issues with timing chains too on the S4. I didn't have any of those issues, but it did leak a lot of oil. And the only proper way to really address that is to pull the engine. This is where a car like this shines. It is very simplistic. First of all, naturally aspirated engine. This has the LS6 out of the C5 Z06 Corvette. That's 2001 is the first year of the Z06 C5 Corvette. In 2006 for this vehicle, then they went to an LS2. They only made the first gen CTSVs for 4 years, 04, 05, 06, and 07. That's it. After that, they're supercharged for the next generation. Simplicity, man, just naturally aspirated engine. Absolutely bulletproof, doesn't leak anything, doesn't burn anything. And I have almost 129,000 miles on this vehicle. I've had it for almost 2 years. It is an awesome engine. Torque anywhere in the range, absolutely anywhere. Regarding working on it, you can do it. I've shot multiple videos on this vehicle. It is frustrating to work on this car. I'm not gonna lie. Because the engine bay is so small and it's a big engine, it is pretty hard to work on this car if you're not familiar or you don't do this all the time. Now, just to give you a comparison, on my S4, just to replace the drive belt, you have to remove the front the front bumper. I'm getting a little excited. You have to remove the front bumper. Once you remove the front bumper, then you place the whole cowl into a service position. Then you have maybe that much room instead of that much room to replace the drive belts. Really tight. And the parts, again, I had to replace on that vehicle that it had a baffled fuel tank, meaning it had two different fuel senders. One was for the actual gauge on the gauge cluster, and then you had another one in a different location regarding how many more miles you have until you run out of fuel. And I'm driving the car one day, every month there was something going on with that S4. Every single month something went wrong on that car. I loved it, but every time something went wrong on that car. I'm driving the vehicle down the road and fuel system malfunction comes up on the dashboard. Another time I had an issue with the whole electrical system going haywire, which turned out to be just a low battery, just by a smidge. And then if you want to replace the battery, you have to tell the vehicle's computer, hey, I just replaced the battery, so it doesn't overcharge it. Like, it's all these little tiny things you don't realize until you have the car. You don't have to worry about any of that nonsense with this vehicle. Now, regarding the parts, just to give you an idea, I did a clutch replacement on this vehicle because when I did receive it, it had engine vibration, and I tracked that down to the clutch was just worn out. And I purchased factory parts, genuine parts, $612 for a clutch, meaning flywheel, pressure plate, the clutch itself, pilot bearing, slave cylinder, ARP fasteners, new rear main seal, all of those parts, $612 and some change, because they've made so many of these engines. To get the parts, it's very accessible. Admittedly, the body, different story. Now this, you can argue, is any vehicle. GM does a very bad, I think they could do better with this. They do a horrible job with keeping up with the parts as cars get old. That's my opinion. Not the engine, not the transmission, but the body, the interior components. So this vehicle had to replace the door check. That's when you open the door, it started clicking. They don't make it anymore. I had to buy a used one. Seatbelt pretensioner. When I bought the car, the airbag light was on. And the seatbelt pretensioner, they don't make them anymore. I had to buy a used one, or you can get them rebuilt. The shocks, as far as I know, they don't make them anymore. You can get coilovers, or you can get something like KYBs for the base CTS, but for these, I'm pretty darn certain you can't find these shocks anymore. This car, again, is 20 years old. It's the first GM car that I've ever been that's older and doesn't creak. This does not moan, doesn't make any weird noises. It's an excellent chassis. They did a really good job with the chassis on this vehicle. And it's a blast to drive. I think ultimately that, it sounds so great. I think if you could find one of these, they only made, I think, 8,800 of these vehicles. If you could find this in stock form, not modded, cammed out, ported heads, full-length headers, just stock, because after 15 minutes, it's going to drone, it's going to drive you crazy, it's going to be uncomfortable. Plus, stock cars tend to do better when it comes to value, and if you do sell the car later down the road, they tend to do better. It's just the way it is. But it's just way more comfortable anyway. And you can still find these for, I think, a very affordable price. 14, 15 grand for a very good turnkey example. Why am I selling this thing? It comes down to life. Unfortunately, I've owned this thing, again, for almost 2 years, and I've placed just under 900 miles on this car. That's it. I like to keep my cars clean, like really clean. And having kids with their sports and everything else, I don't want nasty hockey equipment thrown in the car, dirty cleats from football, basketballs, baseballs. And I also have a little boy who still sits in a car seat. I don't want the car seat putting indentations in the leather. I don't want any of that. And because of that, I hardly use this vehicle, because you're always running around school pickups and sports and everything else. And my wife doesn't drive stick, so I can't share this car with her, so that's out the window. So the car is really a garage queen. I take it out on days like this. It's 65, 60 degrees out today. It's crisp. There's no wetness on the road. The downside on these vehicles, the fit and finish, meaning the interior fit and finish. It doesn't feel like a quality product. Comparing this to the S4 that I had, The S4 was beautifully built. That vehicle also had suede inserts like this one does. Way nicer seats though. They were made by Recaro, but everything you touched in the cabin felt really good. High quality parts. But for me, if it puts a smile on my face, it's a lot of fun to drive. And to be honest, I don't care if it's not the best fit and finish. I care about the hardware. I care what's underneath all of this. That's what matters to me more than anything else. Just right now in my life, it doesn't work, unfortunately. It doesn't. It's just, like I said, just taking up room. Someone drove the car yesterday, really liked the car, and it's going to a good home. It's not too far from here, so I don't have to worry about, you know, shipping and that kind of stuff. So everything just worked out great. But I just wanted to do one final video on this on the CTSV. I'm going to miss this car a lot. It's a blast to drive. It's almost a love-hate relationship when it came to working on it. I had a lot of times I got really pissed off on this vehicle, but nonetheless, it's been great. And if you come across these, keep that in the back of your mind. You may have a lot of fun with them. Thanks for watching.